Ready, set, go.
All right.
What's up, Clayton Schoettle?
What's up, man?
Not much, brother.
There we go.
Appreciate you coming on.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever visited this far west of Asheville? You ever been out this way?
Nah. Looking at wedding venues is probably the only reason that I've been out this way, man. It's a beautiful country. I love it. So, nah.
Where'd you check out? Where are you looking at?
Sawyer Farms.
Sawyer Farms. Okay.
Yeah, up the hill.
Uh-huh.
So I went there this past summer. It looks like we're gonna pop it off like next fall or so. Right now we're in the process of 1,000 different things with the kids and stuff. So taking our time on the audience and the show for everybody. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, Sawyer Farms is beautiful.
Dude, what's that like, man? Knowing that, like, number one, you got a couple kids, right?
Yeah.
Number two, you got a wedding on the horizon. Like, what's that feel like, man?
Nah, it's awesome. I'm not big about the wedding because here's the thing, like, that's for everybody else. You know what I mean? And but when it comes to the family aspect and having the kids and being a dad and being a fiance and a partner, that's where the magic's at. Like I tell people, like, probably one of the most coolest things about being a father is that my kids have never saw me who I used to be, and they probably will never know that. And that means a lot to me because I come across individuals all day long that are going through, and then a lot of my friends in recovery that's had to go over that obstacle of getting their kids back and things like that. And so I think it's an amazing thing that, like, it feels really good to say that my kids have never saw that. And I feel blessed and I feel lucky that I can say that because I know others aren't so fortunate, but I give mad props to the people in recovery that are like, that have their kids back and have their families back and that went through the system. That stuff's awesome. But I love it, man.
How old are they?
My daughter Eden, she's 1.5 years, and my son Kale is 4 months, almost 5 months soon. So he's a little bitty. And then Eden, she's a bundle of joy. If you follow me on Facebook, you'll see her running around, and man, she's awesome. She's like, it's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. And the reason for that, for her solely, is like that's probably like my first true love,
No offense, missus.
Yeah, nah, I love you, babe. But when it comes to unconditional love, right? So there's always conditions on partners, right? If you do this or I do this, then I don't love you, But when it comes to your daughter, it's unconditional love, and when it comes to your kids, and that's something that's pretty special.
That, and it's like, it's not a choice, right? Yeah. It's just like she's born and something inside of you automatically, it's like a flip is switched that unconditional love just like comes from within.
Yeah.
Right? Organically.
When we were at the hospital, when she was born, after like 3 days, we had to stay there for like 3 days. And I was like, we got to take her home with us. Shit. Like, this is crazy, and it was like stuff got real. Yeah. And because we were both kids, ourselves, and we still are. But, to see how we've raised her, man, is like, I was like, is my kid going to be bad? Is it going to be so hard and crazy? And it's like, man, it's beautiful. And then my fiance is like the best mom that I could ever ask for. Like, she's like, people are like, oh yeah, your fiance doesn't work. I'm like, she works way more than I do. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, way more. Because after I get home from working all day, I'm like, hey, like, I'm going to go, to the gym, or I'm going to go do this, and it's like, so, because I'm trying to unwind. And then I got to remind myself that, like, she's been busy all day because they're clouding, they're 100 all day long.
But it's badass of you to appreciate that. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, no, I do, man. She's awesome. And, and not to break her anonymity, but she's in recovery too. Mm-hmm. So she still has to, take care of herself, and we got to find that middle ground. And like, that's probably been the biggest challenge of like parenting in recovery that people don't see. Everybody sees like the pretty Facebook pictures and all that stuff, and any couple in a relationship, and like, y'all don't lie, like, like, it's true. And when you guys are both in recovery and you're trying to do the parenting thing and the relationship and taking care of yourself and like trying to build a career, like she's about to start going to school soon, and it's like, that's the hard part, man, is like balancing all that. But it's beautiful. So I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was the guy that, like, I didn't find recovery until I was 31 or 32. And I was the guy that, like, all throughout those years of just like reckless behavior, like I don't want kids. I'm gonna be selfish and treat myself to all the amazing things and the parties and the lifestyle and the fun and all that. And I just like, I don't want kids, you know?
Yeah.
And then after like 4 years of long-term recovery, I like my mindset kind of began to shift. And I really like focused on myself throughout early recovery. Yeah. I didn't go on a single date. I didn't approach a girl. Like I really like did that internal investigation and really like got right with myself before I put myself out there. Sure enough, you know, my girlfriend now, she has a 6-year-old. And like I can totally relate to like exactly what you're talking about, like the joys and like the struggles and to watch them figure out like what life's all about and watch them figure things out on their own and not try to like over parent them, kind of give them the freedom. But then like what you talked about, like balancing the recoveries. And I'm fortunate that I'm a member of the Refuge Recovery Fellowship. I have been since the very beginning. And my girlfriend is a part of a different fellowship. So like we've been completely separate.
There we go. Yeah. That's
since the very
too.
beginning and very balanced out. And like, you know, she hits her meetings. I hit my 3 or 4 meetings a week. But when things come up, like we talk about it. Like at the very beginning, I was like, very first date, I was like, listen, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen right now. Right. 2 things are going to happen. Number 1 is we're going to communicate right. Right? Like regardless of what happens, regardless of feelings, emotions, stress, anything like that, like we're going to communicate. Like you're going to know how I feel and I want to know how you feel. There's nothing that you can say or do that's going to affect the way that I feel about you. We're just going to communicate. And number 2, like I'm not at the end of the day, I'm not going to cause any harm. Right? Like point blank, like when the smoke settles, I'm not going to cause any harm and we're going to communicate right and be honest with each other. And it seems to work, man. Yeah, you know, it really does.
Yeah, that's awesome. No,
where are you from, dude?
I'm from Ohio, a little town outside of Chillicothe, Ohio, outside of Dayton, called Greenfield, Ohio. Nobody's ever heard of it, so when everybody's like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "Chillicothe." They're like, "Where's that?" I'm like, "Columbus." They're like, "Where's that?" I'm like, "Okay, Cincinnati or Dayton." Okay. You know, it's just such a small town. It's like 5,000 people.
So you're a hockey fan?
Nah.
No?
I've never watched hockey, never will.
I got a close friend that's from Columbus.
Yeah,
he's just all about the Blue Jackets.
Yeah, it's big up there. I never jumped into it, man. Like I was raised in like football and like basketball and like fishing and I'm more Southern Ohio. So like the hockey doesn't come in down in Southern Ohio. That's like that's an up north thing, you know. And so like I'm from a small town, you know, and I moved down here, you know, 4.5 years ago after I got out of treatment is when I moved.
Did you come here for treatment or did you come here for aftercare? What brought you here?
I wasn't really supposed to come down. I mean, it was kind of like all an accident. Like I went to treatment for like my 8th time and the gig was kind of up. Like, you know, I kept going to treatment and all around the place. And then I knew, okay, I got to change something. You know what I mean? I got to do something different. I can't just keep repeating the same process. And I've been to halfway houses before, and it just didn't work. And I had to separate myself a little bit. I was like, I don't want to be in Florida, but I don't want to stay in Ohio. So I have to find something. And my discharge planner just like pointed a finger at Asheville. And I was like, you ever been there? He's like, nah. And he's like, but it's a cool city, you know? And he's like, I heard the recovery's popping. And then I'm like, yeah, that's cool, whatever, let's do it. And he's like, all right. So we set my date to go there, and I got out of treatment, and I had like 3 days before I had to go there. And then like that's when I messed my life up really bad. You know, I've got in trouble before that and things, but on October 25th, 2014. Right, you know, a month and a half before I got clean, I got involved in something really bad. A day before I was supposed to come down here, man, I was supposed to literally leave that next day, and I almost killed somebody behind the wheel. You know, I got caught with drugs and everything, and I hit somebody going like 70 miles an hour at a red light, and I hit this person so hard my spare tire came through my back seat, you know, and I mean, the charges were crazy. I was like, okay. Like, it was so messed up that, and I was so, and like I said, I did this before. Like, I've hit somebody before, and this is like my third time doing something, but this is probably the worst it's been. And everything was so bad when they asked me, like, you know, reading me my rights. I was like, listen, like, I did it, you know, like, throw me in prison, because that was like the most freedom for me. Like, I was so sick of living the way that I was living.
It was a way out at that time.
Yeah, it was a way out. And by the grace of God, man, like, I had so many charges, and the person that I hit was a felon with a gun in his car, and he wasn't even supposed to be driving. And so they like dropped like a lot of the driving charges and dropped it all down to like a reckless op, DWI, and we went to court for it, and that got taken care of. And then like all the drug stuff, like, knock on woods, never even came up. You know, I don't know if stuff's lost in files or what, but it just never came up. And I was like, yeah, like, there's no way I'm coming down here now. You know, there's no way I'm coming to Asheville. That's probably not going to happen. I'm going to prison, you know. So I came down to Asheville with like a day clean. I kept using after that.
What was the date?
December 28th, 2014, right after Christmas. And I came down here with like a day clean, and I tell people, like, I didn't know if I wanted to be clean. I just didn't want to use anymore. I didn't know what recovery looked like. The most time I've ever had is 90 days. And I wasn't any freedom in that for me. It was just like staying at a halfway house, bullshitting with friends. I wasn't doing anything. And
was there an intention to prior to that? Like,
yeah,
those times that you're talking about, did you intend to?
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. I remember being on the phone with my dad outside of my halfway house and like in northern Ohio, like Youngstown, Ohio. And, you know, Warren, like, shout out Warren, because like that's where I found like my first recovery friends, you know, was up there. And I did want to be clean. You know, I had a good job at like a car lot and stuff. And like, yeah, I gotta get honest. I was experiencing some freedom. But here's the thing though, like, I remember the day that so that was 90 days was the most time I've ever had. And this was probably in August August 2014. And 90 days is the most time I ever had. And like, I remember the day that I relapsed. Like, I remember the day that I decided I was going to use. I remember exactly what I was doing when I decided I got off work that I was going to go use. And the sad thing about it is that, you know, people always say like, oh, I need one more. And when I decided to use, I knew what I was doing. Mm-hmm. I knew okay, it's time to go back out. Like, I knew that I was about to run back on that cycle again. And go with it.
Can we go down that road a little bit? Like, what led up to that, to knowing?
Somebody just messaged me, said turn the sound on.
Sounds on, dude. Sounds on.
Yeah.
You got plenty of sound.
Yeah, he's probably trolling.
Trolling?
Yeah. Yeah. He's
I got bars, baby. I got bars.
Yeah, he's a good guy. So now, what was the question?
Let's go down that road a little bit about what led up to that returning to use, and why. Like, you said that you were fully aware of like what you were doing. Yeah. Like, what?
Obsession and compulsion. And here's the thing. So
he got me in my head. Now I'm gonna check just to make sure. But go ahead.
Yeah. So obsession and compulsion. That's probably exactly what he wanted to do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Brendan.
And we'll get you on here next, Brendan.
Yeah, he's in New York. He's doing big things. And so the crazy thing is that like, what do I so people ask me like, what do I associate?
I got no sound.
We have no sound?
I don't know. No one else is saying it. They'd be commenting if they did.
Yeah. And
I hate to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
Who's David Ziller?
He's one of my dudes.
He's clowning you.
Yeah.
The headphones don't fit.
Yeah.
And, sorry, bro.
And one of my biggest things is like obsession and compulsion, right? Mm-hmm. And what do I associate using with? You know, and at that time, like, what I associated using with was pleasure. You know, so now if you ask me today, like, what do I associate using with? I'm going to tell you pain. You know, I'm going to tell you like all the negative things that come from it. But like back then, that what kind of got at my relapse was associating using with pleasure. So even though that I was doing a thing, going to meetings and I had 90 days clean, I still associated my drug of choice with pleasure. So it was pretty much just and a lot of it came down to step work, and a lot of it came down to not getting honest about certain things that I was dealing with, underlying issues and things like that. And so I wanted to feel good. I wanted to feel different. I was probably like, you know, having a bad day at work, and I wanted to feel different.
Would you say that it was like seeking pleasure or avoiding pain?
Seeking pleasure. Yeah, I don't think I was, I don't think I was running from too much. It was just I wanted to experience that nostalgia again, and it's like, because it's not just the drugs, we're addicted to the whole routine.
Yeah.
And I wanted to jump back into that. And so when I came down to Asheville, a lot of it was, like I said, I didn't know if I wanted to be clean. I just didn't want to use anymore. And a lot of it was I was tired, man. Like, I started using my drug of choice at 15 years old, and I didn't get clean till I was 22. So there was a lot of time in between there, and there wasn't any breaks. People say, I started, gateway drug this, gateway drug that. Like, anybody that knows me from back home, there wasn't a lot of gateway. Once I found what I loved, I jumped on it, and I went hard, and I hurt everybody around me, like bad, my family and anybody that ever came close to me. So when I came to Asheville, I was beaten. I didn't have any car. I had a couple weeks rent in a halfway house. My first job in recovery was working on metal roofing all the way in Arden in the middle of winter, and it was like, damn, this is humbling, and a lot of it was like, what am I doing with my life, man? Like, am I going to be a metal roofer now for the rest of my life? Like, what am I doing? So, yeah, it was humbling. Like, I knew things had to change. I didn't know what they were going to be. If you would have told me my life's what it is today, I'd have been like, you're full of shit. It's impossible that it's going to get that good. But yeah, I had no idea what was in store, man.
Yeah.
So,
what was your first impression of Asheville?
Well, my first impression was like one street, because I didn't have a car, and I had no idea how to go anywhere. I didn't have a car for like the first 4 months here. Then I had like an 02 Honda Accord, and I was like, this is amazing. And but Asheville was awesome.
It's got to be a whole nother world compared to Ohio, man.
Yeah, it was a whole nother world. But the big thing here is the people in the recovery scene. I was like, okay, I'm going to a halfway house. I wonder if there's anybody to hit meetings with and things like that. And the recovery scene was amazing here, and I mean, the sad thing is that, like, the longer you stay here, the more people you see go out, not everybody makes it. I think the house that I was staying in when I first moved here, there's like one or two guys out of like 60 guys, and all the houses that are like still clean. And a lot of them passed away. My buddy I worked my first job with, metal roofing, Brandon Owens, rest in peace. Like, he died, and so on and so on. And it's just something that, you see it, but like, there's also a lot of people that's recovered as well. A lot of people that are doing it. But Asheville was awesome. It welcomed me with open arms, and this is where I didn't plan on staying. I thought I would be indicted on charges and stuff, so I only plan on staying here for a couple months and then going to prison or going to jail. So when I found out that
when you came down here, were those charges still lingering? They hadn't cleared any of that stuff up.
They haven't
right?
even started yet.
Okay, so you were still like looking at some pretty significant.
Yeah, when I came down here, I had to go up to court for like the vehicular charges and stuff, but the judge lowered all my vehicular charges because she saw like how the drug charges. She's like, okay, he's going to go away for these, so let's just lower the vehicular charges. He's not going to need a license in prison, and so she the drug charges were downplayed. Nobody said much about them. My lawyer was like, okay, it's going to happen, something's going to happen, and by the grace of God, nothing's happened, man. Yeah. And and he don't think anything's going to happen.
What's the statute of limitations on that?
7 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 7 years. And but yeah, man, and Astro welcomed me with open arms, and I hit the ground running with my recovery in that first 90 days, 120 days, and took off.
Do you think that facing these consequences was what opened your eyes to like really investing in recovery this time around, or was it a accumulation of?
It was like definitely an accumulation of it all. I don't think the legal stuff never stopped me before. So I don't think it was a lot of the legal ramifications. I think a lot of it was family. Mom, it was on a Sunday when that stuff happened, and my mother texted me that day. She texted me like a sermon from church, like literally like 10 minutes before that happened. So like it kind of reminded me of like what I was doing to my family. It kind of reminded me of like what I was doing to everybody around me. So, And like I said, I've been in treatment before, and I've been in and out of institutions and stuff like that. So when I came down there, like I was tired of letting people down. I was tired of letting myself down. And there wasn't a lot of other options for me, you know, besides like, you know, prison or death. So that was kind of like the stopping point. Like, this gig's up, man. Like, this is where, you know, something has to work, you know. And I knew it was up to me. I couldn't point fingers and be like, you know, it's this person's fault or that person. I couldn't point fingers anymore.
There's nobody left to point a finger
there wasn't
at.
anybody left. You know, me and my dad's relationship was all but done. You know, I have 4 sisters.
Thank you, Kendall.
And that was all messed up as well. And you know, it was time for me to take reins and do what I had to do with it. So
that feeling of like, for the first time in my life, right, accepting responsibility for all of my past actions, right?
Yeah.
It seems that it, like, I can't pinpoint like why or where that came from. It just like came out of nowhere.
You're right.
Whether, you know, I just don't know. I just can't pinpoint it, but I can remember like walking out of Marion County Jail after being in there for a few days, and bail finally came, and walking out of jail that day, and I just like sat in the back of my brother, like had to drive like 3 hours from where he lived in Tallahassee to come pick me up, and like just knowing that like I had done all that damage, and sitting in the back of the car, and just like a wave of taking responsibility for my actions. Like you kind of hit on like there was nobody else to blame. There was nobody else to point a finger at, right? Like there had leading up to that point, there had always been somebody to point a finger at.
But there's always been other ways and means to keep going, you know. And it's like my avenues were shot. Like I didn't have the energy to find any more reasons to keep using, man. And then my quality of life, I was 130 pounds, and
dude.
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah.
This guy's jacked, man.
I'm not anymore. I'm a dad now. Oh. And everybody will agree with that. And so I was pretty broken, man, when I got here. So, you know, I started off just trying to get a network, trying to build a network, you know. And like I said, so many people were going back out, so it was hard, you know. So it's like they say stick with the winners, and like that's what I had to do. Like,
how do you identify the winners?
Yeah, I had to identify. Well, I mean, it's obvious though, man. Like people say it's hard to identify who to hang out with. Like that's bullshit. Like it's obvious, man. There's people that are really doing it, and they've been on this podcast, and you know them, you know. Coop was a big one. You know, Philip was a big one that I watched. You know, because I didn't have any idea how to be a man of integrity, you know, and how to take care and handle responsibility. Because, like, you know, I always tell people that, like, life was kind of harder getting clean because I had to take care of shit. You know, I had, like, real life stuff going on, and when I was using, I didn't have any responsibility. I didn't take care of anything. If I got pulled over, I got a ticket, I ain't paying it. You know, suspend my license, I don't care. You know, if I get pulled over, I'm going to jail anyways. So it's like, what's a license gonna do? You know, and bills didn't take care of that, you know. Job didn't take care of that. So when I got clean, like it was time to wake up, you know. And my first 2 years clean, they were kind of a nightmare, honestly, because like, you know, I started, you know, going to meetings and going to the gym and feeling good, and then like, you know, relationships come into play, and like I realized that like I have feelings and I care about people, but then I really don't know how to respect people. I don't know how to treat others. I don't know how to live with integrity because I've never did it before, you know. And
it's a learning curve.
Yeah, and you still hurt people clean. You know, you still go through you know, trials, and you hurt people clean. And then you kind of, you know, fall on your ass a couple times, you know, sober, and you're like, okay, here we go. Let's try to.
What can I learn from this experience?
Yeah, what can I learn from this experience? You know, and that's how I'm at today is by falling on my butt a couple times and picking myself back up, you know. And you know, and I wanted to do more, I guess, like, you know, than just, they say like don't use no matter what, and like, well, that's so important, you know, or like as long as I didn't pick up. But a lot of times, like, I can't say that, you know, in my recovery. Now, if somebody says in their recovery, which I know a lot of people that do, that's awesome. Like, you know, as long as I don't pick up. But for me, that's like, you know, I can do this fuck shit as long as I don't pick up. And it's like, I can't do that, man. You know, I have people watching me, you know, and I have like, you know, my kids and my fiance and my family, and I represent something, and it's like, and then I represent myself as well. And it's like I can't live like that.
Yeah.
If I don't pick up, that's amazing. And just for today and just for tomorrow and everything else. But I have to walk it like I talk it. And make sure that I am taking care of my business at home. And that I don't have any secrets and I don't have any, stupid stuff going on in my life.
It's weird that like you hit on like the, being a man of integrity.
Yeah.
And I think that's like so important.
Yeah.
But it's also a learning process, like you said. And like, it's so easy to how your mind will just play tricks on you too.
Yeah.
Right. Like something so simple, like your wife or whoever will hit you up and like ask you a question and you don't want to like answer it, but you just like
silly stuff.
For a split second, your mind just wants to lie.
Yeah.
And your mind wants to be dishonest. And it really takes, even like 4 years later, right?
Yeah.
It takes intentional effort to like stop that.
Yeah.
To pause for a moment and then give the honest answer. Like I run into that shit all the time, dude. And it's just like,
even if you don't do anything wrong, it's just natural to be like,
yeah.
oh, I was doing this instead of that. It's like you said you're at Burger King, you're at McDonald's. What's the point of that?
Yeah,
It's
silly.
Like, I don't know. It's silly. And then you find like new addictions, man. Like, what new things that you struggle with. Like I went through like a gambling phase last year that like was incredibly bad. And a lot of people joke with me about it, but like, nah, it hit me. It brought out the obsession and compulsion that I ain't felt in a long time.
it goes back to that seeking out pleasure that you talked about at the beginning of the show.
It goes out to seeking out pleasure. And so like I have to be honest about that. You know what I mean? I have to be honest, like during March Madness and during like football
Bro,
season.
I seen you in the front row of them games, man.
That was an amazing time. Yeah. We went down there, saw the first round, got to see Zion play.
Yeah.
Got to meet some cool people, sit beside some awesome people.
Memorable, man.
Yeah. But that's the gifts of recovery, and that I went there with my boss's husband. And that was awesome. Yeah. So, but like, and that's what recovery is about, is experiencing those things and remembering, events like that. And it was neat, man.
Yeah, that's so dope. I was watching. I seen you posting pictures, and I was like, "Damn, man, he's at the games, dude." That's one of the things of like learning how to enjoy those experiences in recovery without having to use substances. Like, bro, growing up in Tampa, Florida, we would always get the college basketball tournaments. They'd come down there. I saw Sweet 16, the year that Ed O'Bannon and all those cats won for UCLA against Duke. I saw a bunch of different Final Fours and stuff, and it was just a hell of a time, man. I was like, that's beautiful. You're a sports guy?
Oh yeah, big time.
What do you think about this Tiger Woods stuff, man?
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. I was watching it yesterday, and I've always like grew up like a Tiger fan. And then like the degenerate gambler part of me, I was telling my boss about it. I was like, man, I'm so mad because a year ago today, like I would have put money on Tiger, like no doubt, but to get off that topic and just for today, I'm going to practice and not have to go through that again, that pain. But
to learn how to enjoy watching the game without that reward system. Yeah.
And you're exactly right. And since I haven't been, it's been awesome watching sports. But to see what Tiger did, man, that was a big deal. It was a game changer. And he was playing against some guys that's been there before. Kupchak is like, he wins majors. He does a lot. And Tiger coming down and just, dude, the thing that surprised me about it all was like how calm he was. He
had the same look on his face as he did.
But as soon as he sank that last putt, he broke.
Yeah,
he broke and
hugging his kid.
Yeah, hugging his kid. Yeah, that stuff was amazing, man. Yeah.
I have one concern about the whole situation.
Yeah.
And that is that, what if he didn't win yesterday?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like everyone, any newspaper you pick up today, any sports website, you go on Twitter, anywhere and everywhere, people are like, "Wow, Tiger Woods is back," right?
Yeah.
But the dude has worked so hard, right? Like physically, mentally, probably spiritually, like going through the issues that he had with his divorce, leading into some substance use and driving under the influence and stuff like that. He's worked so hard to get to like where he is.
Yeah.
And like, had he not won yesterday, would all these people give him the credit for all the changes that he made in his life? You know what I mean? Like, he wouldn't have even been on the news in any of these headlines had he not won that thing. And like, he deserves like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
another aspect of that is like, I don't think he would be on any headlines, but then but it's like, what would that mean to him though? He's been on headlines his whole life.
Yeah.
It might not be a big deal to him. Now it's a big deal he won, but if he would have lost, I think he would have still got the same satisfaction out of what he did coming in second or coming in third, because him not being in headlines would never be a bother to him because he's been in headlines his whole life, but but him winning it and sealing it and seeing that, man, like everybody's like, Tiger's back. It's like, if I was Tiger, I'm checking out, I'm done. It's like, I did what I had to do. And I made it back. See you all. Take care. I'm done.
I guess what I'm thinking about is that, like, in the day and age of like culture shock and people getting upset and like stigma with people who make mistakes, right? Like, there's never like a clear path to forgiveness or a path to redemption, right? And so like, how to change like the culture and the way that we like outcast people for whatever it is, silly decisions that they make, and going down roads that we did. Like, there has to be a clear, defined way to say like, hey, Steve's got his shit together now, right? Like, it doesn't take winning the Masters to like put some love on that thing.
Sometimes it does, though, man. Not everybody wants to see your success, and there was and this translates into a lot of things. There's a certain guy in like a certain room who shares like really honestly and goes off on people, and everybody's like, F that guy, he's terrible, he's a piece of shit. And I was like, the only difference between his problems and my problems is that he tells everybody his problems. I don't tell anybody mine. So it's like, the only difference between your problems and his problems might be that yours is secret and his is out in the open. So it's like, the thing with Tiger is that stuff maybe isn't a big deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a big deal because everybody's watching. It's a big deal because everybody sees it. And what if LeBron James got pulled over going 100 miles an hour in a 40-mile-per-hour zone? Everybody be like, oh, he could have killed somebody. It's going crazy. How many times have you did that? I did it a couple times.
Quite a few.
You know what I mean?
Quite a few.
Yeah, and and things like that. So, what if everybody heard that you and your wife, or you and your fiance arguing at night? What if everybody heard it? What if everybody saw that stuff? What if everybody got to say then? Yeah. So, I think that's how it's portrayed through the media and things like that. Nobody's perfect. Yeah. People make mistakes, and I guess the best thing you do is be aware of those and try to change.
You think he's going to keep bringing it?
I hope so, man. I hope so. I mean, hopefully he has a break I think he has a break for like a month, and then he's back again.
He's fucking jacked, bro.
Yeah, he looks good. Yeah, he looks pretty good. I'm always been a fan, man. I want to see Poulter do better. Ian Poulter, I like him. But yeah, I've always been a fan of Tiger, so it was cool.
When you first moved to Asheville, and you talked about like finding your community, right? Finding your people, finding your tribe, in Asheville. First of all, like, I just thinking about like that kind of topic, like, why do you think Asheville as a whole became this kind of like phenomenal recovery community, right? There's some, like, when I started doing this podcast, like, I was interviewing people from around here and like Cherokee, Bryson, and then like the Asheville scene just exploded on me. And being so far away from like where I live, like, I don't get out there for meetings and stuff like that as much as I would like to. And I began to realize that like Astro has it going on when it comes to recovery. Yeah. And so like, I guess like why did it become what it is today?
I think it's more of like the kind of like attraction rather than promotion, man. I mean, everybody sees what's going on here. Everybody sees, like, I'm from a small town in Ohio, and so when somebody sees Asheville, they're like, wow, that's amazing, and they see people thriving here. And then like the whole stuff with like the Florida treatment and things like that, it's not the spot anymore. The California treatment, that's not the spot anymore. So a lot of people come here. And around this area, the Georgia area, there's a lot of treatment centers, and on the East Coast, there's a lot of treatment centers, and up above us in Tennessee. And this is where, and then the recovery homes here, the halfway houses, man. I mean, how many sober living programs are there in Asheville? Like 20, and that's kind of been the mecca for it. And you have all them sober livings and treatment centers. There's people going to be attending meetings. And then, you know, they start staying clean and making it. And they stay here, you know, they start to develop and be a member of the community again, and to be taxpayers and to be employable, you know, and I think that's what's so attractive to it, is that people get their lives back, and that's a cool thing when you see somebody getting their life back, you know. So, yeah.
Well, what steps did you take, like when you first got here and you got settled in? Like, what steps did you take to align yourself with the right people and find the right people, and like, what did that look like in your life? What kind of action did you take?
Probably finding out who weren't the right people, you know, first, and you know, just talking and being honest with myself about what I was going through, and like sober living is what saved me, and sober living, and it doesn't have to be everybody's story, but like that's what worked.
Because you didn't necessarily go to treatment after this accident, right?
No,
you just came down here and got into.
No, I didn't. And you know, and sober living is what helped me, you know, and being around guys that some of us made it. You know, my buddy Joe, he lives in Virginia. Me and him were like two peas in a pod, and whether he went, I went, and he's still clean to this day, and he's engaged, and he's got just like a month less than I do, and he's doing a thing. And so it's like getting connected with like-minded individuals and people on their own paths, you know, is what was amazing for me. And no, I didn't go to treatment, you know, and you don't have to go to treatment. I tell people all the time, like, you know, treatment's not recovery. People be like, I work in recovery. It's like, were you working in the rooms or something? You know what I mean? Like, I don't work in recovery. I work in treatment. And do I have the opportunity to touch people's lives? Yes. You know, do I get to share my message with individuals that I meet? Of course. You know, but at the end of the day, like, if you break your leg and you go to the hospital, you're not in recovery. You're being treated. You know, so like, I don't ever want people to think that like, oh, they come to a treatment center and like everything's just taken care of and they're going to be a brand new person. That's not the case. You know, like what a treatment center can do is put you in a position to succeed. Make sure that they surround you with all the tools and everything that you need to lead you in the right direction. You know, but the real work happens like when you walk out those doors. You know, so I'm big in like that. I don't work in recovery. You know, because like I try to live recovery, and I'm always open, you know, to talk to people.
So very clear, defined lines between the two.
It is, man. And now it's a recovery process. It definitely is. You know, it's definitely a recovery process, and the people that work in treatment are doing awesome things, and you guys are awesome. And you guys are touching so many lives, you know, but that's kind of that's how I feel about it, you know, and everybody might not agree with that, you know, because there's no magic potion that you shake on somebody, they drink in there and they're clean, you know, like there has to be a willingness on the individual's part when they walk in those doors to want to do it, you know. So
definitely like can relate to the statement that you made that like the real work starts when you leave, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, the treatment, the 30 days in Ocala, Florida provided the right amount of structure to get away from the chaos, right? I didn't know how to live my life.
Yeah.
And it provided the adequate amount of structure for me to focus on the process of recovery. And the beautiful thing was that, like, I've always been like a rebel, you know, like define authority, right? Push the limits, tiptoe the line. So like for me, and I would say like I'm somewhat of a unique individual in the fact that like it was very important for me to like define my own path and figure out what was going to work for me, right? And luckily, the treatment center was very open to the path that I, you know, chose. And the reason why I chose that path was because I had experienced some of the relief that the meditation practices through refuge recovery will provide. Yeah. I had done some very basic meditation in like a forced treatment through like DUI school to get my license back on DUI number 2. Yeah, so like
that was not fun.
No, but like he was just like the DUI school for some reason. I had to do like 13 weeks of like group counseling.
That's terrible.
Yeah,
nobody in there cares.
It was brutal.
I had to go speak to people.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares
about your story. Yeah.
And I did not want to be there, but I had, in order to get my license back, I had to do it. So I went, and literally for that hour every week that I was there, There's an old hippie cat. He was teaching meditation, right? And I wasn't invested in it. I wasn't there to get clean. I wasn't there to do any of that stuff, but get my license back. But for that 1 hour that I was there, I would participate in these meditation, basic, simple stuff like just breathing, body scans, some candle gazing, just real simple stuff. And for that 1 hour a week, I got out of my head.
Yeah.
I got out of my head. I got out of that pursuit of pleasure. I got away from that avoiding and resisting the discomfort and painful experiences. So when I did have that moment of clarity and I wanted to seek out treatment, I wanted to pursue the meditation. And so I just like did some Google searches and realized that Refuge Recovery was like focused around these types of practices. So I took it and I ran with it. And I showed up to the treatment center with the Refuge Recovery book in 2014. My counselor had never even heard of it before, you know, because it was so new at that time. It was a couple months old.
This is what worked for you,
I said, hey, this is what I would like to try this. And I left him the book overnight. I let him kind of like dig into it a little bit. And he was like, I fully support you in doing this. And by them allowing me to do that, I was able to get a real basic understanding of like what this process is going to look like, so that when it was time to get out of there, I had what you said, a foundation to work on, a foundation to grow upon. And it totally worked, you know. And that's why like I'm all about. That's why the name of the show is NC Raw Recovery Always, because I'm super supportive of the individuals who can figure out
different avenues,
what works for you, man. Like it's all about like, what do you want? How do you want to do this thing? Like I support you in any way that you choose to do it, as long as it's a way that's going to allow you to continue to grow and allow you to like achieve your full potential. In a sense, you know? Yeah,
no, I'm with that a lot. And then like alternative ways to get clean, right? And alternative ways of recovery. Like when I first got clean, it was obviously abstinence-based, you know, is how I got clean. And that's just my story. And of course, everybody who gets clean through abstinence-based are like, abstinence-based is the only way to go. It's the only solution. And I was like a big warrior of that, you know, probably my first like 3 years clean.
Because it worked for you.
Because it worked for me, but also it was like down, like, you know, looking negative. I mean, a lot of it was like ego too. Like, you know, if you don't do it my way, you're not good enough, you know. And people on MAT, you know, on MAT, I'm like, they're not clean and things like that. And like I said it a lot, and I judged people that were on MAT a lot. And the thing that changed my mind, and I don't think this individual even knows that he changed my mind on this, is that one of my buddies, and he's actually a coworker of mine, was sharing at a meeting, and he lost his cousin to an overdose, and he said the same thing. I used to have very strong opinions about MAT because it's not the way he got clean, and then his cousin, you know, overdosed and died, and he said, I wish he was on Suboxone. Yeah, and I wish he was on MAT. Yeah. And what that did for me is it opened up my mind a little bit to say, why did I get clean? I got clean to live a better way of life, right? I didn't get clean to be clean. I got clean to live a better way of life, and which means, you know, obviously being, you know, free of all moon and minority substances, but also having freedom. So whatever attracts individuals to a better way of life, I'm for. You know, the treatment center that I represent, you know, we're abstinence-based, but we are fully supportive of anything that might attract somebody to recovery, and that might be what their recovery looks like. You know, and I'm completely fine with that, and I think that is an amazing thing because people are getting their family back. You know, they're finding they're employable. You know what I mean? They're making conscious decisions without being slumped over. And now, like, my opinions on Matt are definitely not long term whatsoever. Yeah. You know, and that's kind of how I feel about it. But it has its purpose. You know,
and I think that's the most important part right there, is that it has its purpose.
Yeah, it totally has its purpose, you know.
And like the way that we kind of like live in society is like, you know, there's a lot of science, research that supports MAT, right? And I'm all about it, like. Yeah. But we tend to react
Oh yeah.
to situations.
Oh, it's something
right?
different. We react to anything that's not familiar to us.
Yeah.
You know.
And so like not like I've seen countless individuals be extremely successful through MAT, right? But I've also seen many individuals abuse it, right?
Yeah, me too. I have. Yeah.
And so it's like one of those things where it's like, you know, like how do you figure out like how do we identify who is like, how do we screen in and identify who's an appropriate candidate for this? Yeah. Somebody very close to me relapsed like a year and a half ago, right? They relapsed after almost a decade in long-term recovery, right? They had like a month back out, and then the doctor wanted to put them on MAT, right? And I'm just like, is that the best thing for them? You know, like, is that the most appropriate way to address this situation? Yeah. I understand like the long-term substance users and things like that, but like in this particular, I don't know. So I just like,
no, you're right.
I totally like, I think that because of the cloud that this whole like coined opioid epidemic thing has had, now we're responding automatically to MAT in like every situation, right? And is it the best fit for every individual? And like that's why I think it's so important to like screen these individuals and find what the most appropriate way is. Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do, Steve? Well, I want to check out meditation, right? Like, what's going to be, you know, like, I support you. Here's all these tools that we got. What do you think's going to work for you? What are you interested in? What are you passionate about? Like,
and outside of the treatment sector, like you mentioned, like we're looking at individuals and seeing if it's right for them or not, outside of like diagnosing them, of course, and judging that on a clinical perspective. What if it doesn't fucking matter? What if like it doesn't matter if we think it's right or wrong for them? You know what I mean? Because like what we do, and as abstinence-based recovery, they're probably looking at us judging the shit that we do clean. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, you know, I have to make sure that I don't judge like, hey, that person shouldn't be on it, because like, maybe it's working for him, man. You know, and maybe I don't know the pain that they've been through. You know, I don't know the pain that he's went through. He don't know the pain that I've been through. You know, let me love them regardless. You know, so, you know, and that's my thought of it. You know, and so all avenues.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally support it. You know, in the right the right setting for the right individual. Yeah, I just think it's important to get to that point to find out what it is that's going to work for them.
Yeah, and then and then when it comes to like a clinical perspective, and then you get into like the privatized treatment sector of it, like, you know, insurance companies love Suboxone. They love Vivitrol, you know, which is amazing and life saving. But they love those things because, for one, their main job and objective is for people to stay out of treatment. You know what I mean? And they love that way. And then to a lot of treatment centers. You know, I heard somebody share this the other day. No treatment centers were for Suboxone until they could start billing for it. Yeah, you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And you see a lot of that too. You know, there's like so many people that are just marketing Suboxone. Like what? Like, you know, and it's like, you know, it's big pharma. It's everything. It's how that works. You know, they sell us the drugs and the cure. You know, so whatever.
Yeah, well, I think like, you know, if you choose to work in the field. Yeah. As you do, it's so important to align yourself with individuals that, you know, have the same type of ethical values that you do, right?
Yeah, and it's hard too, man, because, you know, everybody wants to point, you know, ethics and point, you know, everybody's perfect. And, you know, I know so many people who do nothing but just point about who's perfect and who's not perfect, and they're not walking the right light, you know, like, if you've worked in treatment and you say that you've been 100% perfect, then, you know, you're not being honest, you know, because everybody's made mistakes, you know, and everybody's, you know, but the most important thing is knowing what you're doing today and knowing why you're doing what you are doing. You know, like the people that I work for and the people that I work with, like I would trust them with my life. You know, my bosses and my coworker and
you told me that before we started this podcast.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And like my bosses and my coworkers, like I know what they do behind closed doors. You know, I know their families, I know their cousins, I know their brothers, I know their sisters, I know their mom and dads. I know who they are when everything's shut down. I know why they do what they do. And so anything that's ever said or anything that I have to say about other people, like, you know, it's not going to be on an opinion standpoint. It's going to be something that I've saw. So anybody who has opinions about how somebody operates, I always want to ask them, like, have you visited them? Like, have you talked to them about this? Like, Have you saw this for yourself? You know, I know somebody who works in the field and they hurt a very loved one of mine that's a professional, you know, and she's who taught me how to do this. She's who taught me how to do everything. And this individual who works in the field, you know, preached ethics and preaches, you know, how everybody's wrong and he's right all the time. And then he did some really messed up stuff to this individual, you know. And so it's like, it's important too that if you are going to preach all that stuff and let everybody know how perfect you are, you know, you're going to have eyes on you. So make sure you walk it, you know. And so, you know, but what we're doing, like I work for Asheville Recovery Center, you know, and what we're doing is amazing. You know, we're not, we're more solution based, man. Like we don't bring people in here and say, look how bad drugs are, look how bad alcohol is, look how bad your life is. Like, we all know that. We don't need to reiterate the DARE program. A lot of what we're focusing on is those underlying issues, those co-occurring disorders, the behavior traits, the thought processes. You know, because me as an addict, it's not about the drugs anymore. If it was about the drugs, I could just stop doing drugs. My parents and family would have saved a lot of money, you know, but that wasn't the case. But it's about my coping skills are distorted. Mm-hmm. My coping skills are messed up.
Non-existent.
And a lot of individuals that come to us, for treatment, they've been to treatment 3 or 4 times, or maybe this is the first time. But like everybody comes to the same conclusion that like the way that I interpret it, emotions are messed up. The way that I interpret pain is messed up.
100%.
And even happiness. And I tell people all the time, like when I was 8 years old playing in a sandbox, I never said like I want to be a heroin addict when I grow up. But when I was 8 years old playing in a sandbox, I did feel impulsive. I did feel like I gravitated towards things of pleasure. I did feel that I was easily manipulated and I was manipulative. I did feel those things. So I have to really identify with that side of it before the drugs pick up. And that's why I think it's so important to educate the youth, you know, and because of course we have our DARE programs, right, that are going in and telling people drugs are bad, you know, but you can tell criminals guns are bad. That doesn't change anything. But like, what are we doing to address the thinking behind it? And, you know, I struggled with depression when I was young and nobody knew about it. You know, but for one, I really didn't know who I could talk to, you know, and you know, I used opiates as soon as I found opiates, I found something warm in me, you know, and something that felt good. So if I would have been educated upon my underlying issues and things that were happening that were causing me to do that, man, that might have changed a lot of things. Mm-hmm. So I don't need educated about drugs. I know what drugs are. You know, I know what they look like. I know what they do, but I had no fucking clue what was going on inside me. So like that's what we focus on a lot. Is what's going on in the head, like what's going on in our decision making and our coping skills. You know, why are we continuing to revolve ourselves around the same pattern? You know, and that's the big deal because that's where the solution's at. Yeah. You know, so
I can definitely relate to. I mean, almost identical to what you said about as far as like impulsive behavior at a very young age, chasing pleasure, avoiding pain, and not knowing how to cope with emotions. Mm-hmm. And it's not that like, you know, my parents did talked about these things. Yeah. They talked about them. And so like my question is like, where's the disconnect? How do you educate a young person on how to cope with these both positive and negative emotions in a healthy way? How do you talk to my 6-year-old, you know, future stepson about how he's feeling? How do we instill these values into our kids?
Yeah, that's a great question.
So that they don't, because like, I mean, I heard it. My parents talked to me about it, right? Like life ain't fair, right? You're going to feel bad. You're going to have ups and downs, highs and lows. Like that's what life's all about. What I learned through refuge recovery and through, you know, Buddhist psychology is that I learned how to have the same relationship to pleasure as I do to pain, right? I learned how to appreciate the pleasurable experience in a non-attached way, and that they're fleeting and that they'll go. And I learned how to bring some compassion and some forgiveness to the discomfort and to the uncomfortable feelings, right? Mm-hmm. And I think about this all the time. It's like, how could I have learned that at 5, 6, 7 years old? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Yeah. You know? But it's something I think about.
Yeah, and then a lot of it, like with getting clean, like and then trying to find that outlet, like a lot of it is that like I don't like you because I don't like me. I don't trust you because I'm not trustworthy. I don't believe in you because I don't believe in myself. So finding that inner love for ourselves again, you know, and opening up to another individual and becoming intimate with another individual was a big breaking point in what I see in individuals in recovery. A lot of the reason for that is I always thought the word intimate meant sex, you know, and then I had it explained to me. It just means opening up to another individual. And the success rate that I see of people who learn to be honest with themselves, not with other people, because you can say, hey, Steven, you dropped $1 on the ground. Cool, big, awesome. But when you begin to be honest with yourself about your boundaries and what's going on with you, man, like that's where the freedom's at. Yeah. You know, and that's where I see when I have people that's come to the treatment a couple times in a row and they're not getting it, it comes down to usually self-honesty. You know, they keep talking themselves into being able to live another way than they can. You know, and they have to find that realization. And then how do we attract individuals into talking about that stuff? I mean, I think it's the same way that we attract them into the negative stuff, you know, but what's been feeding in our brain for so long, like, you know where to buy a fancy car at, you know where to find good looking women at, you know where to spend your money at, you know, but it's like, where do we go for pain? You know, where do we go for that stuff? And that's why that refuge recovery is amazing stuff. That's why church is an amazing outlet. You know, and none of that stuff is a singular solution either. None of it is, you know, and I don't want anybody to think that, like, you have to go to a 12-step program or you have to go through, you know, this or that, you know, because when I was in my despair of addiction, I would have took any outlet. If I knew about anything that, and I'm, you know, I'm grateful for the 12-step fellowship that I'm in, and it saved my life, and it's amazing. But I would have took any outlet to find freedom. You know, it doesn't matter which one it was. Like, if you would have put me on, you know, Suboxone, I'd been like, hell yeah, you know, like, I'm not, you know, doing dope every day, sweet, you know. But eventually, I abused that too, you know. So, yeah, that's where that, you know, landed. But yeah, no, I get it.
It's like, I don't know. I just don't know what the answer is. I just, like, I think about this shit all the time, and, like, you know,
maybe there's not one. Maybe
there's not. Yeah, there's not. It's
there's not one. But again, here's the thing that, like I said in the beginning, there's a lot of people dying, but there's also a lot of people recovering. I just lost a friend yesterday, man, and I've lost so many people. And when people say they lost a friend, like, what I mean is I lost somebody that I've told I've loved before. And I don't shed a tear about it. I don't know why I don't, and it's because it happens so much. So it's like, I believe that we have a responsibility. Like you said, there's no solution to it, and I agree with that. But I believe we have a responsibility to make this shit look good. You know, because I see these recipes posts on Facebook, and it's
every
like,
day,
when will this stop? When will this stop? And it's like, well, shit, man. Like, he knew what the solution was. He knew where it was at. You know, when I was out there using, I knew where it was at. I knew what I was doing was wrong. And I knew damn well that if I kept this shit up, I would be dead. And people, like, somebody asked me one time, it was my therapist in Glen Bay in Northern Ohio. Shout out Glen Bay. It's an amazing place. And he asked me, his name was Darian Scott, and he was my therapist numerous times. And he was like, how long can you keep doing this, Clayton? And people ask that question, they think it's rhetorical. They think it's like, I don't know. Yeah, I know you're right. How long can I keep doing it? And I was like, yeah, I know. He's like, no, I asked you a question, Clayton. How long do you think can you keep doing this? And I was like, shit, he's asking me a question. Let me answer it. And I was like, I don't know, maybe a year. He's like, think about that. You know, I think I was 21 at the time. He's like, you're 21 years old, and you just told me right here that you only have a year to live, that you can only keep doing this for one more year. And I was like, damn. So when I talk to a lot of individuals and families, I ask them, you know, how long do you think can you keep doing this? And they say, yeah, I know. And I'm like, nah, I'm being serious. How long? And they're like, shit, they've never thought about that. And I never thought about it either. Like, I never thought about, like, how long could I actually do this? I never thought I would see, you know, my 20s or my mid 20s. I never thought I would see it. If you would have asked me how long am I going to live, I would, shit. I had no plans of living past 30. I had no plans.
No fear of death.
Yeah. Well, I did have a fear of death because I believed in God. You know, I believe in God. So suicide was never an option because I was too scared of hell. But I definitely believed in, I definitely had a fear of it, but I also had a fear of quit using drugs. I was scared to quit using drugs. You know what I mean? So that fear was definitely way worse than, you know, than dying, you know. And I heard somebody share, like, when you die, the pain doesn't go away. It just passes on to somebody else, man. You know, somebody else has to go eat that pain up. You know, I talk to moms every day, and my friends' mothers, you know, that I follow on Facebook, and they talk to me and they message me, and I mean, that shit hurts me, you know, so much. You know, people that I love that are just aren't here anymore. Like they are not on this earth anymore. Nobody will get to tell them they love them. They will never get to see their kids again. They're not there anymore. And like that shit's real. You know, it's not just another rest in peace status. It's somebody's mother, somebody's daughter, somebody's son, somebody's uncle, somebody's dad, some little girl's dad. You know what I mean? Is gone from this earth, man. And like that's shattering shit. That's real stuff. So it's like we have to ask ourselves, like, what are we gonna do about it? And like my only solution that I've came up is like, be the best fucking person that I can be. That's probably the most impact that I could have with it, is that I want somebody to look at me, and I'm not perfect, man, by any means. I'm not perfect. I have many demons that I struggle with, but I want somebody to be able to look at me and say, hey, I know I can talk to Clayton if I need help. I know I can talk to Steven if I need help. You know, when they call, say, yeah, let's talk, man. Let's talk, you know. Yeah. So.
How, at what point in this process did you begin to work in the field, and like what made you like, what was the appeal to do that?
Yeah. I started working in like sober living when I had, I love you, David. And I started working in sober living when I had like 9 months clean as like a house manager, you know, some janky job, you know, but what I thought was a janky job. And then it gave me a lot of opportunity to start talking to people, man, because nobody wanted to hear me talk. Nobody wanted to hear me talk.
Why?
It just wasn't anybody, man. Yeah. You know, I mean, I'm not anybody now, but I mean, I'm a dad, and you know, and you know, employable. But when I started working in Halfway, I was able to be a part of something, you know, and I did that for like 2.5 years, and then I started like the business development side of like, you know, opening up more houses and like connecting with individuals who, when it came to the sober living aspect. And then, but I would really say that I've been working in the field for 2 years, even though it's been like 3.5 or 4, because like when I started working in treatment, that's when I saw how real shit got. Like when you switch from like that sober living line to treatment, like that's when like the eyes really open up, when you're coming in and getting people, like when it's right in front of you, you know, the desperation and stuff, you know, it is in front of you, and it's serious more. Like there's a license behind it, you know, like you're representing something that's pretty amazing. And you got to change the way you act. And because when I was working at Halfway, man, and anybody can attest to this, you do whatever you want, you live however you want, you post whatever you want. It don't matter. There's no license. No halfway houses are licensed. You know what I mean? There's no stipulations to that. You know, but when you go and work on the treatment side, that's different. And what made me want to do that and what I get out of it is a lot of satisfaction. I love connecting with parents of people that came through our facility, man. That's awesome. Like I love it from years, you know, after years passed, and they're hitting me up and they're like, "Yeah, man, this is what I'm doing now." And I see them. And the thing is, and the neat thing about it is, I see them in the rooms. Okay. I see them at their places of employment. I see them, you know,
in the community,
yeah, uh-huh. You know, and it's like, shit, this is awesome, you know. You know, and like, you know, like Rise Sober Living, like shout out Rise, you know, Colton and Nick, what they're doing. Like they're guys that they have over there, like doing shit.
I need to talk to those guys.
Yeah.
They're on my list.
Yeah. And like, you know, Colton and Nick, like their guys are doing shit, you know, they're like, they're employable and they're being men of integrity, and they're making changes. And like when I first met some of these people, they weren't those people. And then a lot of my opinions on sober living is that like sober living works when people want to be clean. People,
you're proof of that.
Yeah, people were like, "Oh, this sober living shit," or "This sober living's amazing," and I don't think there's much to that.
Yeah.
Because it's like I could go to a terrible sober living, but if I want to be clean, I'm going to stay clean, and then I can go to a great sober living, and if I want to fucking get high, I'm going to use, and I'm going to fuck shit up. You know what I mean? So it's like. I don't believe that there's a bad place and a not good place. Now, if you're doing like very unethical stuff and people are getting hurt because of what you do, that's a whole nother ball game. But when you put people in a position to succeed and you surround them with those like-minded individuals, people are generally going to attract to that. And that's why I love like what Rise does. Because they don't have any like special thing that they do. They don't have all these like, hey, we offer this, we offer that. Like, no, we have some all right houses. We charge, $175 a week. Y'all hold each other accountable and let's get shit done.
Yeah.
Let's recover. Y'all go to your meetings, and let's have a house meeting every week. Let's meet up. Let's talk about what the hell's going on. And that seems would be what works.
Some accountability, some structure. And
yeah, we don't need all this fancy stuff, man.
Yeah.
We don't need it. Some people do, but no.
What's your position at Asheville Recovery Center?
Yeah, so I handle like all the business development and
what's the title?
And the missions. I'm director of business development. So I handle like all that. And what I do is like I do like a lot of outreach, going to hospitals, going to detoxes and meeting up with other professionals and working with them and finding how we can help each other. Like shout out to Freedom Detox. Like that's one that we work hand in hand with. You got to get Brad. You got to get Brad on here. He's an amazing individual, and Waylon down there at Freedom, and then Brianna down there at Charlotte. They're doing amazing things.
Is that a fairly new place?
Yeah,
that's what I thought I heard about. I think my class. I think one of my instructor did a field trip out there or something like that not too long ago, last year.
Brad Wilkerson would be the one to talk on here, and he's amazing. So pretty much just going out and about and meeting the individuals that are trying to connect and seeing how we can be an outlet to help others, and then I handle a lot of the admissions as well, along with Nick Barnard, and when it comes to like screening calls, making sure somebody's appropriate to our facility, because like we're good at what we do.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to sit and act like we handle. You got sex trauma, we handle all that. You got an eating disorder, let's take care of that. We don't do a lot of that stuff. You got a substance disorder and some co-occurring issues, let's talk. Let's see what we can make happen. You need help getting off this shit, like let's talk. And we'll leave that stuff up to some other people, and one day we'll venture into those realms as well. The mental health side of things. There's,
get good at what you do.
Yeah,
do it.
My diagnosis is primary substance abuse, underlying mental health. And if somebody has primary mental health, underlying substance abuse, we can't take care of that. We have to refer that out. So like connecting with those individuals that offer those things. So that that's the big part of it. So yeah, and I love it, man. We're doing big things, and we're growing, and our family's growing there at ARC, and it's amazing. And get a hold of me and come by and check it out.
Yeah. I plan to.
Yeah,
I'm gonna come check the place out for sure. You've hit on this a couple times tonight.
Okay.
You've talked about the family.
Yeah.
At ARC.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's
and
awesome.
It's a very like that.
Much.
Your crew, your people is like a family dynamic.
We are.
And there's that like level of unconditional love that you keep hitting on, and like, whose vision is that? Where did that come from? How did that culture? Because that's so, regardless of if you're working in treatment or whatever business it is that you're running, like that is a culture, right? If you can create that type of culture with your peers, your employers, employees, whoever, you can create that kind of culture, you will be successful, regardless of what type of business it is.
And that's what a lot of it is, man. From the moment they moved to Asheville, Hassie, Danny, and Nathan. And like Danny and Nathan don't like no social media, so they probably don't like me saying their name. But the moment they moved to Asheville, I was attracted to them, who they were as individuals. And I was working at another place of employment, and they were like, "Hey, we can't just take you from what you're doing. But if anything ever happens, call us." And then something happened, and I called them, and we made it happen. And the reason why that family thing's so important is because, like I said, like I trust every one of them, and like we don't have that drama. We don't have that like who's better than this and who's better than that. Of course, there's like always competition to succeed, competition to be better, and like I deal with it with people in the workplace. But like at the end of the day, it's positive because we're challenging each other. Mm-hmm. There's no secrets in between who's doing what, or like this person's like talking about this person. Like when it comes to like our main people, we represent each other. And then when it comes to the family atmosphere, like we don't want to be all corporate. We don't have any investors out of China and things like that. Like we are who we are, if you want to talk to the owners, then stop by and talk to the owners, and give us a call. Let's set an appointment up. We don't have to go through a bunch of hoops, and we are who we are, and we're all love, and we're all family, and we're never going to sell you short. We're going to explain it exactly how it needs to be explained. And we don't need everybody to be like, we don't need to be so proper, man. Like, and I think that's where a lot of the filter comes when people. Now, of course, you have to present yourself in a certain way, but like, we're not dealing with a broken arm. We're dealing with substance abuse. And there's one way to fix a broken arm, you know what I mean, generally. You know, but with substance abuse, there's so many different ways to fix this. We're not dealing with your secular population of somebody who comes into the hospital. You know, people are like, would you treat a broken arm like this? How would you feel if, like, you know, it's like, nah, like, we're talking about substance abuse.
And you're talking about people's lives,
talking about people's lives,
yeah.
you know, and I'm not going to be fake. I'm not going to be censored. You know, I'm not going to talk to you on the phone and say, hello, how can I help you today, sir? Are you struggling with a drug addiction? Like, nah, man, like, let's get real. Let's talk about what the hell is actually going on. Because, like, you know, that's how we're going to find the solution. That's how we're going to find the success.
Yeah.
You know, and to those listening right now that might not agree with that, I'm sorry. But, like, that's how the way that we operate. And at the end of the day, we do it with integrity. And we do it with putting the individual first. Yeah. Always. The individual is always first.
The thing about doing it that way is that, like, you know, in so many other places, there's just so much, like, bureaucratic bullshit. Yeah. Right? And it sounds like all that stuff's just, like, off the table right there because you're real and because you're treating people like people, including each other, right? Like, that's the number one thing that, like, I was studying at the campus down here for like a year and a half, right, to get a CSAC. And then I began to see all the bureaucracy and all the bullshit and like the stuff that was happening. I was like, hold on, bro, hit the brakes, dude. This ain't what you want to do. I can't work in an environment like that, right? Like, I got to be real with you. I got to be real with the people that I talk to, regardless of where I go. It kind of goes back to that integrity thing. Like, I'm not going to sell out for some shit, you know?
And if you have to, and like, you know, like if you have to do that, then it's not your calling. Like, it's funny because people are like, why do you do substance abuse? Oh, because it's my calling. But then they get into it and they turn the opposite, you know? And I know, you know, like I said, there's a code of ethics you have to abide by. There's things like that. But when it comes to being real, like you want to do that. And like I spoke to you earlier, like I took human services classes at AB Tech and I went through a couple semesters of all that. And they don't mention like the demographic that's being treated, man. Like, it's not this homeless population in which there's a ton of it is. And like, call us. Like, if you don't have, you know, resources, call us. Like, we will help you. I guarantee 100% you will not get on the phone with me and I'll tell you to take care. I promise you that will not happen. I will find you something. But you know, we treat all different types of people and you know, addiction does not discriminate, man. It doesn't care how little or how much or what we look like and things like that. And I feel like a lot of the sector, when you're dealing with, like college and you're learning about it and you're getting educated, they break it down to like some people who are less than, I feel like, you know what I mean? And like every class I took, I feel like we were dealing with less than people, like we were studying something, you know, we were studying an individual, and that just puts like a glass ceiling on like how successful somebody can be in recovery. You know, I see like a lot of people get clean and they put like a glass ceiling on like what they want to do with their lives. And it's like, why, man? Like, it's neat to be like, yo, I could go to law school right now if I wanted to. Yeah. Right now, I wanted to. I could go to law school. Nothing's holding me back. You know, like, you know, I could go to real estate school. I could do all this. And it's like, I could go to college. I could do all these things. Nothing's holding me back. But when we're talking about it in a sense like you are, it seems like there is. It seems like there's a lot of shit holding people back. You know, it doesn't need to be that way, you know? So,
there totally is, man.
Yeah, ask Philip, man. Ask Philip. Ask him what's holding him back, you know? Like, shit. He's got more jobs than I've had my whole life. Mm-hmm. Right now, he has more jobs than I had in my whole life.
Truth.
You know?
Truth. So like getting in over there and working over there, right? And getting in the family and doing all that stuff. Like, I really want to know, like, how you have been able to balance your personal recovery with all of the heavy workload at work, with raising a family, with getting married. Like, what does your time look like? Like, how do you invest your time in things that will support your recovery? And then, like, what types of things do you do?
Yeah. So finding that balance, I don't know if like people always say, I don't know if there's a balance, but like, that's kind of true. I don't know if there is a balance. I don't mean for to be the one. I guess my biggest thing is that, like, I have to stay conscious, right? Mm-hmm. When I'm working, I have to stay conscious that I'm working. And when I'm at home, you know, Travis Herman taught me this, you know, shout out to Travis at Real Recovery in Silver Ridge. You know, he's awesome. And he taught me this, like, I have to, like, take care of myself. And what I mean by that is my family. I have to be able to pull that plug out. I can't be at work and be half work, half family, and be at home and be half work, half family, because somebody's getting left out. Yeah. So, like, when I am working, I have to be in that 100%. And when I am home, I have to be at that 100%. You know, and like so I've been challenging myself a lot. Like when I come home, like to go ahead and put my phones in the other room, in the other bathroom on the charger. You know, let's try to focus on, you know, what I'm doing with my daughter, and my son and my fiance, and give them the time that they deserve. And then like being able to hit a couple meetings a week to take care of myself. You know, that's important to me. And then when it comes to like my hobbies, I love to play Call of Duty.
Yeah. You're asking me if I play games.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I never got into it until like 2 years ago. And like, I'm a dad, man. I don't go out and do a lot of things anymore. So it's like, you know, a lot of my coworkers, we all play together. And then like, going to the gym and being outside, going fishing. I started jumping into fishing a little bit this year. I'm excited.
Fly fishing or?
Not yet. I'm going to get into Nathan, my boss, wants to start that. And then like right now we're in the process of buying a house. We're under contract. You know, like my first house ever. Like, you know, and this is like my, you know, to own something is amazing. And we're under contract right now, and everything's going pretty smooth. We should be moving in by like May. It's in Mars Hill. It's out of Asheville, like 30 minutes. It's a beautiful log house in the mountains, and it's pretty much like my dream home.
Great place to raise a family.
Yeah, and it's her dream home.
Yeah.
And it's just, that shit's neat, man. It's neat. Because like of what I come from in my background, and none of that, like I'm not supposed to be outside playing with my daughter, you know, like that stuff's not supposed to happen, man. You know, that was never going to be part of my story, you know, like.
We made it a part of your story, bro.
We made it a part of our story. So like, look, what I enjoy doing is family, man. Like, you know, that's what I enjoy doing is like being with my family and having a good time. And like when me and my fiance getting along is like important too.
Yeah.
Because there's so many emotions that come with work and balance and all that. Like if you think there's not resentment, you're crazy. Like there's resentments on both sides, always, you know, about who's doing what or things like that. Like, you know, so like being able, like when I'm at my most peace is when everything's kind of like intertwining in like, you know, which there's always chaos in life. But when I feel like everything is on the same pattern, you know, work's going smooth, home life smooth, kids are healthy, you know, taking some self-care for myself a little bit. She's taking some self-care for herself, and like that stuff's moving forward, and we're doing good in a relationship, and everybody's all right. That's when I'm at my most peace. And that's
so how do you respond to like a speed bump then, man?
Yeah.
How do you respond to a roadblock?
Yeah, no. Well, for one, I got to slow down. I got to ask myself, like, okay, why is this happening? You know, is it something I caused? You know, was I stressed out about something and I snapped? You know, and well, I just went through one, man. Like I'm closing on this loan, and next thing you know, I owe the IRS. So the IRS is real. You have to pay your taxes. Yeah. So from like 2000.
Today happens to be tax day as well.
Yeah, from like 2016, I had some tax bills and I didn't pay, and I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. So like I had to go cut the IRS a fat check the other day before I closed on my house. I was like, can I make payments? I was like, can I make payments to the government? And they're like, nah, but if you want this loan, you have to close.
Wow.
Yeah, like you have to make sure this is paid in full. And I'm like, wow. So those are speed bumps, man. And of course, shit was not smooth. Like something came out of like my vibe, and I wasn't okay with it. And then my control issues popped up, my ego popped up, like my humility popped up. You know, hit me from all different directions, and I didn't respond to it well, man. I was flipping out. I was stressed out. But like at the end of the day, like, if I take care of, you know, if I'm integrable, you know, like, you know, and if I take care of my business and I'm honest, and everything's gonna be okay. Yeah. You know, it might not be perfect, but like as long as I take care of my responsibilities, everything's gonna be all right.
And eventually. I think it also just goes back to that level of self-awareness.
Yeah.
Just regardless of if like the wheels are coming off or not, as long as you know they're coming off, like it gives you an opportunity to respond in the most appropriate way, right? Yeah. If you just let go of the wheel and let it go where it goes, then watch out. Who knows what'll happen? But as long as you're like aware of the situation and you hit that pause button like you talked about.
Yeah, you gotta respond, man. Like it's kind of like, you know, if you struggle with self-esteem, do esteemable things. Yeah. You know, if I struggle with responsibility, I need to do responsible things. So I knew this shit would come up and bite me. I knew it would, but I didn't know when. Yeah. And then like I'm trying to make the biggest purchase of probably in my life that I'll ever make, and I think the reason that it hit me so in such a big place is because it's like I've never had a family before. I've never had nothing, man. Like I never did anything myself for anybody.
So it's not just affecting you. Like, you got 4 heads.
Yeah. So when I had this envision planned out of like having the house on the mountain and like the fire going and my kids running around outside, that's my dream. So when that stuff got altered, I was like, shit, man. You know, I was like, shit. But then it comes down to gratitude, man. I got to be grateful for where I'm at today and what we have, you know. So, yeah.
And you muscle through it, and you got it.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. It's up to the sellers now. We're all good. Everything's good on our side, the bank side. You know, everything's good. You know, shout out Remax in Asheville, Alexander Schrank and Elise. Y'all were awesome. Hit them up if y'all need a house.
You got a closing date?
May 13th.
Woo!
Yeah, May 13th. You know, and then Amanda's birthday is May 14th. You know, so that's cool, man.
Happy birthday, babe.
My fiance's birthday is right after that. So I told her she's getting a house for her birthday. So, and that's a 30-year loan. So she don't need nothing for 30 years. Yeah. So
that's beautiful, man.
Yeah,
that's
man,
beautiful.
so.
Tell me about this fishing deal, man.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I've always fished my whole life. And I always get like peer pressured into getting back into it. Like I think I went fishing one time so far this year, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going fishing now. So I don't know. It might be a gimmick. We'll see. We'll see if I can jump back into it and stick with it. You know, because I always like I'll go to Field and Stream and I'll buy all the rods and reels and stuff, and then I just like get busy like eating or something and won't ever go fishing.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Dude, there's mad trout out this way.
I'm not from here. I don't know how to trout fish. I have no idea about anything like that. I catch fish people never heard of. I'm from Ohio.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
I'm from Florida, man. I grew up on the saltwater, you know, and this is a whole nother world. But I see these cats catching just trout like crazy.
Yeah.
They do like the trout release in the Tuckasegee up the road from here.
Yep.
And dude, these people just like slay trout.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Well, my boss Nathan used to do a lot of spear diving and stuff in Florida, man, and so he came here and he started like trout fishing and stuff. But when he tells me stories about doing that in Florida, did you ever hang out with anybody that did that?
I've done it. Yeah.
Yeah, he tells me stories and I'm intrigued by it, man. I'm like, what? I'm like, are you scared of sharks? I'm freaked out of sharks. Yeah. And I'm like, are you scared of sharks? And he's like, nah. And I'm like, he's like, I'm more afraid of grouper.
I've seen a lot.
Yeah.
But no, they're nothing to worry about. There's a lady, she was actually on Joe Rogan's podcast. Look at those trout.
That's what he caught the other day.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a big one.
That's insane.
Yeah.
There's a young lady. She's like 30 years old. She's from Canada, right? Mm-hmm. I heard her on Rogan's podcast like 6 or 8 months ago, but it wasn't a super popular one. But this woman inspires me. She's like 30 years old, and she was like a big time corporate lawyer in Canada. And she started like assessing her life and like looking at like, you know, I got all this money and I got this badass job, badass house and all this stuff. But am I really happy? Am I living my life to my fullest? Am I like growing? Her name is Valentine Thomas. Definitely throw her follow on Instagram.
Yeah.
Everybody check her out. So she had this like super corporate freaking job, badass like lawyer, all the money, all the cars, all the bullshit. She wasn't happy. She looked in the mirror. She was like, you know what? This is just, I'm not in the end of my life doing this for another 30, 40 years. Like I'm not going to have the happiness that we all want and seek and pursue. So she just quit.
Yeah.
Right? She moved to Florida and became a spearfisher woman.
Yeah.
That's all she does, dude. That's all she does for like her career. And now she's doing like blogs and
and I don't know anything about it, man.
It's so sick.
It's something I want to try to do.
Yeah, it's so
one
sick.
day.
I mean, I grew up in like Tampa, so it's not on the Atlantic coast where the water's like crystal clear. We're in the Gulf of Mexico, but we used to just take we used to take just the little Hawaiian slings, just a little like thing with a rubber band that wraps around your elbow, and just like snorkel underneath the docks and shoot all kinds of fish. It was a ton of fun.
But like you said, like, you know, her like doing up and doing something different. And speaking back on Rogan's podcast, man, I was listening to him and Dr. Phil.
Yeah, I listened to him.
And the funny thing is that like, and when we'll finish up here, but like the funny thing is that when I was like, oh, Dr. Phil's on, I don't want to hear that guy talk. Yeah. You know, he's so corporate, you know, he's whatever. He's so, you know, and I'm like, and he had some good stuff to say, man. And Joe Rogan was like, listen, Dr. Phil, you've made so much money, man. You made so much money. You know, you obviously aren't still doing, you know, why are you still doing this? And he's like, you know, Joe, what's your money? You know, and he's like, what is your monetary gain? You know, maybe, you know, and that was neat. He's like, what are you still doing it for? It doesn't have to be about money. What else are you earning? And
what's the reward?
What's the reward? You know, and it was cool to hear Dr. Phil say that. And he also, real quick, he touched on something, and he talked a lot about internal and external depression and stuff like that. Like, did you hear him say that part of it? Uh-huh. He was like, with the youth and stuff, like, you know, there's the internal depression where like the chemical imbalance is off, you know, and the brain's wired a little different. And then there's the external when it comes to like family life and stuff at home and bullying and things like that. And we're treating a lot of this like it's internal. We're not treating a lot of it like it's external, you know, and sometimes it is. Sometimes it's our situation that's around us, and we're treating it with medications and Xanax and all this stuff, but it's not going to help anything because it doesn't change the environment around. So, I thought that was awesome.
Are you afraid for your kids with like this world that they're growing up into, with like the technology and the bullshit online and just like the chaos? And are there any fears?
Yeah, I mean, we're moving our,
I got a cabin on the mountain.
Yeah, we're moving all the way out, in the middle of nowhere, you know, but I live in the middle of nowhere too. And, you know, I dove into it. So, and I dove into it, as well. So like, here's the thing. People ask me all that stuff. Like, you know, not only, are you going to die? You know, what's up with all the computers and generations and how that stuff is, but also about the addiction standpoint. What's up with that? It's always like that quiet question that we don't like to think about with our kids, man. Like if I ever catch my son or daughter smoking weed, am I going to be like, you know, you're terrible, and like, let me tell you about addiction, or am I going to just be real soft? And then maybe they think it's okay. So like, how do I dive into that? You know? And so, I guess the main thing is just like I said, attraction rather than promotion. You know, is just always just make sure that I'm the best that I can be. And you know, my dad raised me amazing, and there's nothing he could have did to ever stop me. But be
that positive role model. Yeah.
But when it comes like electronics and stuff like that, like I want to keep that away from my kids. She always tries to grab my phone now, as it is. You know, so
they all do.
Yeah, always. She's always trying to grab my phone and watch it. She knows how to FaceTime me, and when I'm at work, she knows how to get her mom's phone and FaceTime me and everything. So yeah,
it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, it is, man.
What's next for you, bro? Tell me some goals. Like, what do you want to?
Some goals. So a lot of it's school. You know, and the funny thing is I love my career, and I feel very confident in that this is what I will be doing for the rest of my life. And a lot of the reason for that is that like I want to see something grow, and I want it to turn into something bigger. And so I want to be sitting back 50 years from now, 30, 40 years from now, and being like, this is my baby, you know, and we did this as a team, and like all of us came together and made this possible. And so that's why I love where I'm at. But like a lot of my goals is that like I do want to, not in a career sense and in a monetary goal and an employment sense, I don't ever want to change. But a lot of my goals is learning and studying something different. Because like I was never good in school, man.
Yeah.
I was never ever good in school. So like whether it be like studying law or diving into something like that, or real estate, that intrigues me. I always have the entrepreneurial mindset, and like jumping into like a real estate or something would probably be like a goal, you know, doing that a little on the side or anything, or like having projects with that, you know, or owning a business, man. Like that, I think that's cool too. Like owning like a coffee shop and seeing something grow from scratch would be neat, you know, because that's my life, you know.
When I first found recovery, like I came from like the business world. I had a career before recovery, and like I never in my wildest dreams thought about starting a business, right? It just wasn't something that was on my radar. But the process has been like fucking badass, dude.
Yeah.
Just to like learn all this, write a business plan, right? To sit down and write a business plan, like, you know, look at projections and look at your goals and things like that is like stuff that I knew how to run a business because I came from that world, but I never actually like started it from the ground up.
Yeah, and people don't see what comes behind all that,
dude.
And I've never did it myself, but like I said, the people that I'm with every day have. And I hear their conversations, and I see their discussions, and it's like shit, like that's some stuff, man, and paying attention, you know, to that. So yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, dude, I wish you the best, man.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's been a pleasure to have you. How can people get in touch with you or Astro Recovery Center? You got a work phone number, email?
Yeah.
website, anything of that stuff? What do you want?
Yeah,
What do you want to give out? Anything?
Just go to AshevilleRecoveryCenter.com, or go to our Facebook page, type in Asheville Recovery Center. Give me a call. Give us a call. You can find me on Facebook if they want to find me. My name's right there. Find me, hit me a message. Look us up. See what we can do. And
I'll include links to our little thing that I email out.
Yeah.
I'll include links.
Let's get to know each other, man. Let's see what we can do. I had a great time talking before this and during. So
we will do that, and we'll do it again, man.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I take the show on the road like once a month. I do a podcast out in the community and stuff.
Yeah, you got to.
So y'all want to do something from ARC, man? Let me know.
Come by. Thank you.
I'll be happy to do that.
Yep.
Y'all have a good night. Thanks for checking us out, y'all.
See y'all.
Dude, you're a badass, man.
Yeah.
I gotta pee.
Dude, I gotta pee so bad, dude.
Yeah, me too.
We off?
We're off.
Dude, I gotta pee so bad. It's one of